Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Anarchy Interviews. Today I'll be redoing an interview that I previously did with a player by the name of Deloaded from the server 2B2T. Do you mind giving everyone kind of an overview of who you are again?
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Deloaded. I am the founder and one of the leaders of the Dawn Fuhr organization. We're a building group that operates branches on different Minecraft servers, mainly Anarchy servers, but we also have a few branches that are more focused on role play type servers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so as always, I'm gonna ask you how'd you get into blog game? Like how'd you get into Minecraft?
Minecraft as a whole, uh, I was introduced to it by some friends way back in the day, like back in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was hooked on it immediately. And that's actually where Dawn Fear was started. I
Mm-hmm.
started it on like just my buddy's Minecraft server. He had a small little server that 10 or 15 people played on, and that's where we came up with the idea.
Alright. So now what kind of drew you to start playing Anarchy and like spit in 2B specifically?
Well, I was really intrigued by the concept of no rules, by the crazy history that 2B2T had, the epic stories that you would see on YouTube. And so, that drew me in. That drew me in, but I was still kind of on the fence about it as someone who is mainly a builder. 2B2T is like pretty crazy, it's not really the best server to play on if you like building.
Mm-hmm.
But I had some friends, Hermetic Lock mainly, who convinced me to actually join and start playing for real.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now that we've gotten to 2B2T, do you mind like telling us what your early days on the server were like?
Mm-hmm. So I first heard about 2B2T from the Rusher videos way back in the day in 2016. I wasn't a fan of Rusher per se. I had no idea who he was, to be honest. I just saw one of his videos in my recommended and thought it looked really cool. And I did join, and I escaped spawn, and then I was killed by a fellow rusher who was in like iron armor. He was in
Ooh.
iron armor, and he had a veteran shield that he made himself.
Oh
And
Lord.
yeah, it was like this rest stop with like farm crops and everything. And I was like, oh, food, I'm saved. I'm like, oh, there's another player. He's in iron armor. He must be like a noob, just like me. And then he killed me.
Man.
So that was my first day on
Mm-hmm.
the server. I did play, here and there a little bit, just messing around at spawn, not really doing anything. And then I didn't start seriously playing until December of 2016
Mm-hmm.
when Herm was basically talked me into coming back and playing with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this
So, do you
uh
want me to talk about the first Dawn Fear on the server?
I wouldn't. I would like to make a quick comment. It's kind of crazy to think that shields are really just that old. Like the new combat mechanics as a whole, and like Crystal PvP as well, because that was all 1.9, which was 2016.
Yeah, well, Crystal PvP wasn't even. Nobody started doing Crystal PvP until 2018, roughly.
Wow.
I mean, not really. It wasn't like that commonplace. 20, well, it was like late, yeah, I guess by 2017 people were doing it, but for like all of 2016, no one was doing crystal PvP, and it was still all just swords.
Hmm. Had nobody chosen to start using axes at all?
So axes were a viable option, but the only reason to use an axe would be if you think you can like break somebody's armor faster,
Hmm.
because swords have higher DPS, but axes do more damage to armor. So
Yeah.
uh, I was never a big PvPer, but that's my understanding of it.
Hmm. All right. So you wanted to go over the first Dawn Fear base on 2B?
Well, if you want to know, I mean, you asked.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, go for
you
it.
asked what my initial experience was like on the server.
Yeah, so go for
So
it.
I talked about joining the first couple times, and then Herm finally convinced me to start playing for real. And obviously, Herm is someone I knew before ever joining 2B. Me and him are friends on a faction server together. And then he had his own server for a while too, called Anarchy Heroes, which was anarchy themed. But he finally convinced me to join 2B2T, and me and him were like, all right, let's make Dawn Fear 10, because that's the one we were on. The
Wow.
next was Dawn Fear 10, and we did it as part of like the Vortex Coalition. So Herm was a member of the Vortex Coalition, and basically he got me into the Vortex Coalition and pitched the idea to Coltsnid, who was the leader of Voco. Like, hey, I know this really cool builder named Deloaded. We like to build a base. It's always called Dawnfear. You know, let's
Hmm.
go build. Let's give me some people and some resources, and we can build a base. Um, and Colston was down for that. So right off the bat, we had some supplies, and we had a few players from Voco that were going to come build with us. And our plan basically was, we're going to build this really cool base inside of Voco, and then we'll get all the good Voco players to essentially play with us and be at our base, and then we'll just launch our own group after that. We'll have like uh, we'll split off from Voco at some point down the line. So we're building Dawn for 10, and Dawn for 10 lasted only a month, so just December. And at the time, it was pretty impressive for what it was. You know, there were no dupes. We had to mine all the materials to build it. We did
Wow.
have some tools, and it ended up getting destroyed when Coltsnid kind of got jealous of that. He sort of figured out that that's what we were doing, and he got kind of jealous of it and worried about it. So he leaked it, and then Voco had this whole thing where they basically imploded and had to be reformed and stuff. But the video that was produced from that base, so Herm made a video on his channel that became a big success and got thousands of views, and then Baron Dome covered it as well, and that got like 40,000 views.
Hmm.
Which back in the day, Baron Dome's gone now; his channel's deleted, but Baron Dome was the second biggest YouTuber behind Fit,
Hmm.
and he wasn't that far behind either. It was kind of like Sal versus Fit now. It's like that kind of
Hmm.
comparison. So it was a pretty big deal.
Hmm.
And so Dawn Fear was like pretty well known right off the bat on the server, because we had
Hmm.
um, that visibility right off the bat. And then
Hmm.
Herm did his Hermetic Lock spawn base, that would eventually turn into the Spawn Masons, and I basically quit. I did Dawn Fear 11, and Dawn Fear 11 was like bad.
Mhm.
Um, it was really bad, and so I kind of just stopped playing, and I left the server for probably 3 or 4 months or something like that, and then I didn't come back until that summer to do Dawn Fear 12 with
Uh-huh.
Herm. But there's such a long history to that. Lots of ups and downs, and the history of Dawn Fear is really complicated, and there's been periods where it's on the verge of dying, and there
Lon,
llamas
Lon,
have invaded the studio.
yeah, technical difficulties.
Maybe we need a door on the studio.
Maybe. I mean, I'm still gonna keep that in because that was funny as hell.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, all right, all right. Back to what you were saying. Oh wait, hold on. All right, back to what you were saying.
yeah. So Dawn Fear history is a complicated topic, and there's not a lot of people from back then who are still around who even remember it. And I mean, basically anything before 2021, or not 2021, basically anything before 2020 in Dawn Fear history is not that relevant
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
the group kind of went through a really hard bottleneck close to the end of 2018, and almost no one survived that bottleneck.
Hmm.
So I can go as in depth as you want, but we could sit here and talk for 3 hours about it. But yeah,
Yeah. So since we're on the topic of Dawnfear, I'm gonna kind of ask some more stuff like just related to Dawnfear as a whole and other branches
sure.
as well. So so far in like the second quarter of the year, or what has been like the most successful Dawnfear branch so far?
In this
In the
this
previous
year,
quarter, sorry. Yeah.
do you want to exclude 2B from that list?
Preferably.
The
Because,
answer is 2B.
yeah, yeah, because we all know 2B would be on top.
The answer is 2B, yeah. But excluding 2B, I that's a tough one. So far this year, I mean, there's different ways to measure success.
Hmm.
So some of the branches that we've launched this year have pretty much already died. Uh, some of the branches that we've launched this year have not been around long enough to really count, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and then we've got a lot of older branches. Some of them deserve recognition for making it this long. Uh, some of them are stable, but they only have like one or two people. But at least they're there,
Hmm.
you know. Um, that's a tough question. I would say. I mean, you want me to say Avas, right?
Uh, I
Let's say
mean,
Avas.
maybe.
Avas is the most successful Dawn Fear friends. Congratulations.
But so you did mention that a lot of branches have gone and kind of basically died. Do you mind giving kind of like a small list of the ones that have?
Oh, a list of the ones that died?
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that. Sure. Uh, Zero B, Zero B's dead. Um, What else? Terra Tales 2.0. Our second attempt on Terra Tales is about to crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
Stoneworks reached a crisis point a few weeks ago that required my intervention to save it. Now that I have saved it, they've got like 3 or 4 people now, and it looks like it could make a recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's possible.
it's not down. Wait, what am I talking about? Stoneworks?
I think.
Did I? Okay, Stoneworks almost died, and I had to save it,
Yeah.
but it looks like it's going to make a recovery now. So that's good. Um, 9B is stable. Constantium is stable for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like we dabbled in a Bedrock branch of the group for a
Ooh.
while. No one even knows this because it was just, well, only elders know this because I was just talking about it with them.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a Discord set up and everything. We even went that far that we had a Discord set up. And we had people in there. We had like 5 or 6 Bedrock players in there who
Damn.
said they wanted to do it. But the server that they picked was the deadest server I have ever seen. And but it wasn't just that the server was extremely dead, it was also that there was like stuff everywhere. Like the server had huge towns and cities on it that were built years ago. And I'm like, what? Like this server, it's just, it's like a museum now. There's no
Was it just kind of
room.
like a dead Anarchy server?
It wasn't even an Anarchy server. It was like this weird towny thing. Um,
Uh,
Bedrock has weird plugins that don't work the same way as Java does.
well, yeah.
And
I mean, they're coded in different languages from what I know.
right, right. So that was a whole deal. And then we almost set up a branch on a Catholic server,
What?
and that was a nightmare.
You elaborate on what you mean by Catholic server?
Catholic? You had to be Catholic to play.
Oh, okay. What the hell?
Well, you didn't have to be. I mean, they kept insisting that you didn't have to be, but
But it was kind of like hinted.
yeah, it was heavily
Yeah.
implied that you needed to be Catholic. And they also had pretty strict rules. Like if you said anything bad about the Catholic Church, they would just instantly ban you.
Damn.
So yeah, that was not a great option. Um, start setting up branches on other servers is something that we only started really doing 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's ridiculously hard. The success rate for a Dawn Fear branch on an Anarchy server is probably around 50%. The success rate for a Dawn Fear branch on a Geopol server, on a non-Anarchy server, like a faction server or like a Stoneworks style server, which is the other sphere that I would really like to see the group break into, the success rate for that is like 10% or something.
Hmm.
And it's heavily dependent on who's put in charge of it.
Hmm. I mean, see, one of the more successful branches in that genre is CivMC, right?
That's true. That's true. I probably forgot to mention them. CivMC is a wonderful server. It's a very old server. It has a lot of players on it, and we're not a huge nation on there, but it's stable.
Hmm.
And so in my book, that's a success. Like it didn't die horribly, and we have like a decent chunk of land on that server. So in my book, that's pretty much a success, even if progress is slow.
Hmm. Yeah, so what is kind of like what's kind of the most annoying part about having so many branches of Dawnfear that you have to like oversee?
Can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
What is like the most kind of annoying part of having to oversee so many Dawnfear branches?
When 2B2T needs my attention and something's going wrong on a different server at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I typically only get involved if something is going horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a great way to run things, you know? If I could
Yeah.
just clone myself and like be in two places at once, that would be great. But
Yeah.
uh, it's not really an option. So it's dependent on picking out somebody that is, they have to be several things. They have to be enthusiastic about Dawnfear.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be active, and they have to be at least moderately good at their job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they have the first two, like if they're active and they're enthusiastic about Dawnfear, I'm forgiving
Mm-hmm.
of them being horrible at their job
Mm-hmm.
because they can get better. Like
Yeah.
if you do it longer, if you run a group of players for long enough, you will eventually get good at it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm the prime example of that
Mm-hmm.
because uh, when I started out leading Dawnfear, way back in the day, I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
Um, I've made every mistake imaginable at some point.
Uh-huh.
Dawnfear's been around for a decade now, and yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes in that time, but Dawnfear's been able to bounce back from those because we, well, we didn't give up. I didn't give up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you say like they're good at their job for like leading a Dawnfear branch, is that kind of if it's for an Anarchy server, would that kind of signify them previously having run a group on that? Okay, I punched the cat by accident. Yeah, but would that kind
What?
of just would that kind of signify them like kind of running a group before they had run a Dawnfear branch? That was
No,
like that was like successful or
no, they don't need to have. No, it doesn't need. It doesn't mean that. Uh, what I mean by good at their job is, I mean, obviously being active is probably the biggest component, honestly. But when I say good at their job, I mean leadership skills. Like, do they know how to talk to people in such a way that inspires confidence? I guess that's a good way of putting it. But it's also like, hey, what's like best practices for if a base is compromised? What's how do you react if people are attacking you? Um, how do you not provoke drama and like dumb conflict? And
I had
it's
the
also about seeing like, okay, this is going to be a good idea. This is not going to be a good idea. You know, oh, this sounds like a good project. This sounds like something that would be impossible for us to do right now. Um, there's a lot of small decisions that branch leaders have to make all the time about what they think they can do, what they don't think they can do. A lot of people, one of the mistakes I see a lot of people make is they bite off more than they can chew.
hmm
Like they'll come up with this really ambitious plan. And look, I'm all for big, ambitious plans if you actually have the capability to do it.
hmm
I'll give you an example. On Stoneworks, way back not that long ago actually. This year, this is something that happened this year. Because Stoneworks, as I said, required a lot of attention from me this year to save it, and I I appointed several different leaders over that time, basically just rolling the dice, trying to find someone that was half decent. One of the people that took over, he presented this plan to build this really big library. It was a really huge project. It was this giant library made of sandstone. It was a really beautiful build. He had it designed in creative mode and everything, so it was all ready to go. He just needed the materials in game and maybe the people to help him build it. And I was like, all right, hey, this is a really cool
Oh,
library. I just punched the desk. I'm sorry.
it's all good. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Oh shit.
Just leave it. It's fine. It's fine.
Hold on.
Okay, great.
Alright. Hold on.
I forgot I was in creative and I was trying not to get kicked for being
It's all good,
not moving.
man. Shit happens. Yeah.
Anyway, what was I
Yeah.
talking about? You should go back to your seat.
Yeah. Yeah. Just continue on. I'll go back to my seat in a second.
Okay. Oh gosh, guys. Yeah, this guy had this really ambitious library plan, and I was like, okay, hey, this is a really cool build. Do you think you have the materials to actually build this? And he was just like, oh yeah, like we'll get the materials, like it's not gonna be a big deal, oh, we can easily get this much sandstone if we do XYZ and the other thing. And oh yeah, like I've been talking to other nations and they're gonna like pitch in and help us get players to come build this. And I'm like, look, I mean, maybe I can send some people from 2B to help you build it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. And so I wasn't opposed to his grand idea, but he himself assured me he was going to be able to get it done, when in reality it was way too ambitious. It was too big. There wasn't enough materials. He didn't have the manpower to do it. I mean, if he himself logged in and tried to build it himself just alone, it would have taken him like probably a month to do.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't thinking about that. And of course, when things started to fall apart, when other people didn't agree to help him like he thought they would, he got pretty upset and just kind of went inactive. And then we were out another leader.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get rid of him. Like I didn't even have to tell him he's fired or anything. He just like left on
Wow.
his own. Yeah, because he was so distraught about that. But also like I think someone stole all of his stuff in game. So he was upset about that too.
Damn.
But that's an example of people just like coming up with these really ambitious plans that they can't actually do. And we've made that mistake on 2B2T a lot. Like we've started big plans that we couldn't do. Um, although on 2B, Dawn Fury is really getting to the point where we're able to do some of the more crazier ideas that we have. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't fault people for trying.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've kind of just brought up 2B again, I'm gonna be kind of going over some more 2B Dawn Fury related stuff.
Uh,
So, do you mind kind of going over what the Connect 4 controversy was?
right. So there was this like let's see, January, February, probably in like February of this year. There was this group event base that was called Connect 4. And the idea is that these players were going to get together and play an in-game version of Connect 4. And it had a lot of people from a lot of different groups involved. So there were a couple people from Dawn Fear invited to it. There were people from the Collective. There were people from SBA, from all these different groups.
Mhm.
But the event hosts, like the people who started the event,
Mhm.
were all BSB members. And BSB is a griefing group on the server.
Mhm.
They've griefed pretty much everyone,
Mhm.
but they've griefed Dawn Fear quite a bit.
Mhm. To quote Deloaded Bot, that was coded by Nate, the BSB is the most evil and dangerous group on the server.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they've done some pretty bad stuff. I'm not going to go into all the details, but they've done some pretty bad stuff, uh, which your audience can look up if they're interested. But
Mhm.
basically, we saw that and we're like, well, it looks to us like this is a BSB project. So we griefed it. Uh, in hindsight, that was a mistake. And there was a bit of backlash from the community. A lot of people were freaking out and saying, "Oh my gosh, like this is the end of Dawn Fury," blah blah blah
Oh
blah
my
blah.
god, don't fear grief, don't fear bad.
Right. And a lot of people that didn't like us, but didn't like have a good enough reason to openly hate on us, seized on this event and like used it as an opportunity to go mask off with how they really felt about us. So we kind of got dogpiled for a while. I did come out and actually apologize for the grief because it was a mistake. It was a mistake. I wouldn't do it again if we had the opportunity. Definitely wouldn't do it again. Um, we should have looked more carefully about who was in that Discord and who was really involved because we definitely pissed off a lot of our friends with that. So we fixed we fixed our mistake. We apologized. Not a lot of people would have had the guts to apologize, especially when you're getting so much hate.
Mhm.
And things have cooled off. I think everyone knows, like, obviously that wasn't the end of Dawn Fury. Like, surprise, surprise, guys. Uh, and people are mostly cool with us now, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. So now Dawn fear 25. I got to visit that base on the 2B archive. It's fucking beautiful base. Do you mind kind of going over what happened at that base?
Yeah. So Dawn Fury 25 is not the first modern themed base we've ever done, actually. We did Dawn for 21, which is more modern themed, but it's the first one that we had a lot of materials and had a lot of players, and we're really able to just hit something full force, hit a concept full force with all of our strength. That base is truly, truly massive. I encourage anyone who's listening to go look at it on the archive if you haven't already, or check out our tour video of it. It's a really, really beautiful base. Very modern themed. Lots of skyscrapers. We've got like a casino district. We've got a futuristic area. We have a whole neighborhood that's this like huge neighborhood, literally taking up multiple biomes. I love that base. And the
Mhm.
thing is, too, we did it in only 3 months. Now that's insane. 3 months for how big that is.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to like gloat or brag or whatever, but I think it's pretty impressive.
Mhm.
Even some of our even some people who aren't well, the whole community really was impressed by that base. I'll put it
Mhm.
that way.
Yeah. So now, from my understanding, there's also a Dawn fear base that was just abandoned instead of griefed on the on the archive, and that would be Dry Fear, Drei Fear.
Mm, no, I don't believe that was abandoned. I think it was actually griefed.
Ooh, okay.
That was griefed by I think it was griefed by BSB.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the Connect 4 thing.
Ah,
So somebody somebody leaked it as like part of the Connect 4 thing, and that's how that got
yeah.
griefed.
All right. Well, still on the topic of bases or just building projects. Project Dark Mirror. That was a beautiful project.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really really nice. I appreciate you bringing that up even. It's our most recent big project that we've done. It's basically like a giant dome castle thing, this beautiful build, and then it's mirrored upside down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really really beautiful. It's basically just a big mega structure.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of the final thing I'm gonna be bringing up in terms of bases on 2B. The most recent base that I don't know what the name of it was, but it's the most recent Grief of Dawn Fear on
Yeah.
2B. Do you mind kind of going over what that was?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a more steampunk themed base.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to go for kind of an like 18th century type vibe. So there's lots of like steamships everywhere. There's lots of airships as well. We've got like some castle type stuff. We've got another futuristic section. It's a really really wonderful base. Uh, Unfortunately, things don't always work out. Sometimes there's a security gap somewhere that you didn't realize. So it didn't last very long, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to be making a video about it for our channel because it's a really nice base. Even though it didn't reach its full potential, it's a really nice base.
Mm. Did it have a name at all, or?
So we don't give a base the official Dawn Fear name title with a number, typically until the end, until like it's destroyed or like about to be destroyed.
Yeah.
So this one never received a number. We're gonna call it. We're gonna be calling it Steam Fear.
Mm-hmm. That
That's
makes
what it'll
sense.
go on the museum as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now, I guess that's really it for 2B Dawn Fear. Uh, yeah. Do you like a closing remark?
Yeah. I appreciate the interview. Thank you so much for your questions, man. If anyone wants to like learn more about Dawn Fear, uh, you probably you probably are already in our public server, but we have a giant public server you could join. Visit our website or check out our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just before I do the outro, is there anybody that you'd like to see on the series?
I think that Nate should come on the show. That would be
Ooh,
great.
I've talked to Nate about coming on, and he doesn't really show interest in coming
Oh,
on
I
at
know.
the
I'm calling
moment.
him out. I'm calling you out, Nate. You have to come on the podcast, Nate.
Well, you
Um,
heard it here first, Nate.
we love
Deloaded is
Nate. Nate's
Deloaded is
amazing.
gonna force you to come on the podcast.
Nate's amazing. He deserves the spotlight.
Mhm. Yeah. Is there anybody else besides Nate?
You could talk to Darkamir.
Ooh, that's true. I could talk
He's
to
one of our
Dr.
best builders,
Mhm.
and he's
From
probably like the coolest Swedish player on 2B.
mhm.
So
Yeah, and from what I know, he was also MVP builder in the Dark Mirror project, right?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He is insane. Darkmere is he builds so fast. He's the kind of person who just has like unprecedented levels of dedication and stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah,
All right then.
you
So
should talk to him about if you get him on. You should talk to him about rebuilding Aureus and all that.
ooh, I knew Lucan was part of that rebuild,
Yeah,
and I forgot to mention it to him, but luckily he brought it up in the interview.
yeah,
So
yeah.
kudos to him.
That
Yeah.
was a really good project that we did too.
Mm. All right then. So I guess that's the end of the episode. Thank you for rewatching the Deloaded interview because the last one kind of flopped. Uh, Dawn for your public server will be in the description. Dawn for your website will be there, alongside my socials, my discords, and yeah, like, subscribe. Have a nice day, and Heil Dawn for you.